In Part 1, we saw how a targeted strike shook the entire Middle East. But the real story is only beginning now. Because after that attack, one question was echoing across the world. What happens next? Was that strike just a warning, or was it the beginning of a confrontation that could push the entire region into the flames of war? In Tehran, the situation was extremely tense. Iran's government and military leadership were locked in continuous emergency meetings because this attack was not just a military operation. It was a direct strike against Iran's highest leadership. And now, Iran faced its biggest question yet. How should it respond? How big should that response be? And should that response be something that could turn this entire conflict into a much larger war? Only a few hours after the attack, an emergency meeting was called in Tehran. In that meeting, Iran's top military commanders and national security advisors were present. The atmosphere in the room was extremely serious because everyone understood if a response was launched, the consequences could be enormous. Some officials believed that an immediate response was necessary to send a clear message that Iran would not allow such attacks to go unanswered. But others were urging caution, because if the situation spiraled out of control, the entire Middle East could be pulled into a much larger conflict. And this was the moment where every decision had the potential to change history. Meanwhile, across the Middle East, military activity began to intensify. Satellite images showed unusual movement around several missile bases. Multiple military units were placed on high alert. Air defense systems were activated, and at the same time, Israel's military was also fully preparing. Because they knew if a response came, it would not be small. Security was increased at Israeli military bases. Fighter jets were placed on standby, and air defense systems continued constant surveillance. The entire region was slowly moving toward the edge of a major confrontation. But this was not just a conflict between two countries. The world's major powers were also watching the situation very closely. In Washington, U.S. officials held an emergency meeting. Several European countries also expressed concern about the situation. Because if the conflict escalated, its impact could reach far beyond the region. The oil market, global trade, and regional security, all of it could be affected by this confrontation. That is why many countries called for restraint. But on the ground, the situation remained extremely fragile. Over the next 48 hours, tensions continued to rise. Everyone was waiting for Iran's next move. Would Iran launch a direct response? Or would the conflict take an entirely different direction? In Middle Eastern politics, wars are not always fought openly on the battlefield. Sometimes, these conflicts are fought in the shadows. And that uncertainty was making the entire world uneasy. Because if this confrontation escalated, its consequences could reach far beyond the region. But one question still remained. Would this crisis stop here, or was the Middle East moving closer to another war? Because in the coming days, events were about to unfold that would make this conflict even more dangerous. And the world held its breath, waiting for the next chapter of this story